everyone, we are welcome to the Nabila show on Muftar Nabila Abdul YouTube channel, your home of exclusivity. We were here earlier, just a couple of minutes ago, to talk about Milovan Rajevac going to name his Black Stars squad for the African Cup of Nations pre-tournament campaign in Doha. It's a 30-man list, though earlier we had mentioned that sources had indicated to us that he was going to name about 26 players. But like we did indicate that a plethora of reports had already been out there indicating that he was going to mention 40 players. Others had said he was going to mention 30 players. But what we knew was that he was going to mention, to name 26 players. And again, we promised that as and when the list comes out, we'll be in place to give you at least an idea about why some names were included. But first of all, let me just take you through the full squad Milovan Rajevac has named. For the goalkeepers, we have the likes of Joseph Painstil. The surprising omission in that is Vitoria, who hasn't made an appearance in the national team since Milovan Rajevac made a return to head the Black Stars. And we also have Abdul Manan Nuruddin in there. There's also Richard Atta of Accra House of Folk and Lawrence Atizigi. These are the goalkeepers. We visualize that just one person is likely to be dropped from this, and it is likely to be Richard Atta. He's going to be dropped from the squad, and for the main tournament itself, maybe when he names the squad on December 30, you will know what we are talking about. Until something dramatic happens in the camp, Richard Atta is not going to the African Cup of Nations. And then in midfield, we have the likes of Baba Idrisu, there is Edmond Ado, Thomas Teye Patey, Mubarak Wakaso, Mohamed Kudus. Mohamed Kudus is injured, so whether he'll be available for it, we cannot say. Whether his club Ajax Amsterdam will release him or not, we cannot say, but we do know that he was injured, he's still injured, he's here to regain his full fitness, but hopefully he will be available for the competition. Abagna Sandown of RTU, that's an interesting name in there. I got the intel he was going to be available just about 5 days ago, and the exciting thing about it was that it was after their performance against Kamasi Asante Kotoko that many people were convinced that this is a player who deserves an opportunity within the senior national team. And also, there's also Salis Abdul Samad of Clermont Foot. This was also another surprising name. Do you want to know who recommended him? Hang on for that. We'll be sharing that subsequently. For wingers, we have Abdul Fattawi Issahaku, arguably the best player in the Ghana Premier League so far this season. There is Samuel Owusu. There is Kamaldeen Suleiman. Samuel Owusu went to the African Cup of Nations 2019, so he will be making his second appearance in the African Cup of Nations. There is Andre Ayew and Joseph Painstil. Joseph Painstil, countless times that this gentleman, C.K. Akono, had tried calling him without success. Subsequently, he was able to get a call-up. Unfortunately, he couldn't make it because of injuries and all that. Milovan Rajevac has seen him. He's convinced that he deserves a place in the senior national team. The politics surrounding his call-up, I think, has also been doused. And we can talk about the right backs now, and we have Andy Yadon, Philemon Bafo, Bawaraman. The right backs, defenders. Andy Yadon, Philemon Bafo, Bawaraman, Gideon Mensah, Daniel Amate, Alexander Jiku, Jonathan Mensah, and Abdul Mumin. Abdul Mumin have had an incredible season so far for his club, Vitoria Guimaraes, and he merits this call-up. For strikers, Jordan Ayew, Richmond Boache Yadon, Maxwell Abbey Quaye of Great Olympics, Afinajan. Afinajan is another interesting thing. We have mentioned a couple of times in our previous Nabila show episodes that he was never going to come to the Black Stars call-up. That was extended to him. Indeed, he never showed up. I've had an opportunity of speaking to people who are close to the player. They keep telling me they have a program for him to develop. As to whether he'll be in the African Cup of Nations, I cannot clearly tell, but it appears that this is an opportunity that they will allow him to embrace. Then there's also Benjamin Tete. These are the players Milovan Rajevac have invited. Now, let's talk about a bit of the politics. Milovan Rajevac wanted to name 26-man squad. We can say this authoritatively. He wanted 26 players, but the leadership of the Ghana Football Association did not want 26 players. They wanted 40 players. They were actually pushing him to name 40 players. So he could drop it down to 28 players for the African Cup of Nations because CAF have said that you have the room to name at least 28 players for a competition. That was what happened. Milovan was one man who stood on his grounds. We were made to understand that the likes of Alfred Duncan were players he factored in for the call-up, but sources claim that the leadership of the football governing body were against his call-up. Did they try getting Kamal Sowa? Yes, without success. Did they try getting Mohamed Salisu? Yes, without success. Mohamed Salisu is never available for the Black Stars until God knows when. His reason for not playing for the senior national team is quite difficult to put out there because there are so many things that can influence a player's decision not to honor an invitation to a national team. So these players were never going to come in. I'm looking at the squad and I'm tempted to give a conclusion of the 26 players Milo wanted to work with, but it will be quite premature for me to give that conclusion. But what I do know, what I can tell you is that this 30-man squad had to go through a lot of processes before it was finally approved by the leadership of the Ghana Football Association. Even as at last night, it was not available. One thing that we also need to let everyone know here is that the assistant coach of the Black Stars, Otto Addo, is not available for the African Cup of Nations. His club, Borussia Dortmund, is not releasing him for the competition. So it's quite difficult. We cannot lay a finger on who is coming in yet, but trust us, the Nabila show, we are likely to get who is likely to replace Otto Addo as an assistant coach for the African Cup of Nations to be staged in Cameroon between January 9 and February 6, if my memory is right about that competition. So Otto Addo is not available for the African Cup of Nations. Milo, in the words of some people, is a difficult man to work with. They probably never knew they were hiring a difficult man. They said they needed someone who could stand up for himself. Indeed, they found Milo, a man who stood up for himself. Difficult to be a pushover. Muftau Nabila Abdul for the Nabila Show. Thanks very much for your company.